Well, good morning again, and today is September the 11th. We are going to get right into our Bible reading today. We're going to take a look at Psalms chapter 78, and then we are going to look at Proverbs 7 through 10, and we're going to discover what children learned back in the early days of America. This article is entitled "The Alphabet in America's First Textbook," and it was named the New England Primer. Now, before we get started, you might notice I'm not really dressed up today. I've got this yellow t-shirt on, but this is a bike t-shirt that I got on a bike ride. And, one of the things that just is on my mind all the time is running your race for God. And so that came about, just like running a foot race or running a bike race or whatever that might be. I tie that all together, and you will note that if you go to my YouTube page, I have many other videos that deal with running your race for God. Even if the titles don't reflect that or don't say that, in most cases, somewhere inside there is going to be information about running your race for God. So that's why I have a lot of bike t-shirts. So anyway, let's turn in our Bibles to Psalms 78. I got to do that myself, don't I? Psalm 78, and let's listen to chapter 78.
Psalm 78, a contemplation of Asaph.
Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. We will not hide them from their children, telling to the generation to come the praises of the Lord and his strength and his wonderful works that he has done. For he established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers that they should make them known to their children, that the generation to come might know them, the children who would be born, that they may arise and declare them to their children, that they may set their hope in God, and not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments, and may not be like their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that did not set its heart aright, and whose spirit was not faithful to God. The children of Ephraim, being armed and carrying bows, turned back in the day of battle. They did not keep the covenant of God. They refused to walk in his law, and forgot his works and his wonders that he had shown them. Marvelous things he did in the sight of their fathers, in the land of Egypt, in the field of Zoan. He divided the sea and caused them to pass through, and he made the waters stand up like a heap. In the daytime also he led them with the cloud, and all the night with a light of fire. He split the rocks in the wilderness, and gave them drink in abundance like the depths. He also brought streams out of the rock, and caused waters to run down like rivers. But they sinned even more against him, by rebelling against the Most High in the wilderness. And they tested God in their heart, by asking for the food of their fancy. Yes, they spoke against God. They said, "Can God prepare a table in the wilderness?" Behold, he struck the rock so that the waters gushed out and the streams overflowed. Can he give bread also? Can he provide meat for his people?" Therefore the Lord heard this and was furious. So a fire was kindled against Jacob, and anger also came up against Israel, because they did not believe in God and did not trust in his salvation. Yet he had commanded the clouds above and opened the doors of heaven and rained down manna on them to eat and given them of the bread of heaven. Men ate angels' food. He sent them food to the full. He caused an east wind to blow in the heavens, and by his power he brought in the south wind. He also rained meat on them like the dust, feathered fowl like the sand of the seas. And he let them fall in the midst of their camp all around their dwellings. So they ate and were well filled, for he gave them their own desire. They were not deprived of their craving. But while their food was still in their mouths, the wrath of God came against them, and slew the stoutest of them, and struck down the choice men of Israel. In spite of this, they still sinned, and did not believe in his wondrous works. Therefore their days he consumed in futility, and their years in fear. When he slew them, then they sought him, and they returned and sought earnestly for God. Then they remembered that God was their rock, and the Most High God their Redeemer. Nevertheless, they flattered him with their mouth, and they lied to him with their tongue. For their heart was not steadfast with him, nor were they faithful in his covenant. But he, being full of compassion, forgave their iniquity, and did not destroy them. Yes, many a time he turned his anger away, and did not stir up all his wrath. For he remembered that they were but flesh, a breath that passes away and does not come again. How often they provoked him in the wilderness and grieved him in the desert. Yes, again and again they tempted God and limited the Holy One of Israel. They did not remember his power, the day when he redeemed them from the enemy, when he worked his signs in Egypt and his wonders in the field of Zoan, turned their rivers into blood and their streams that they could not drink. He sent swarms of flies among them, which devoured them, and frogs, which destroyed them. He also gave their crops to the caterpillar, and their labor to the locust. He destroyed their vines with hail, and their sycamore trees with frost. He also gave up their cattle to the hail, and their flocks to fiery lightning. He cast on them the fierceness of his anger, wrath, indignation, and trouble, by sending angels of destruction among them. He made a path for his anger. He did not spare their soul from death, but gave their life over to the plague, and destroyed all the firstborn in Egypt, the first of their strength in the tents of Ham. But he made his own people go forth like sheep, and guided them in the wilderness like a flock. And he led them on safely, so that they did not fear. But the sea overwhelmed their enemies. And he brought them to his holy border, this mountain which his right hand had acquired. He also drove out the nations before them, allotted them an inheritance by survey, and made the tribes of Israel dwell in their tents. Yet they tested and provoked the Most High God, and did not keep his testimonies, but turned back and acted unfaithfully like their fathers. They were turned aside like a deceitful bow. For they provoked him to anger with their high places, and moved him to jealousy with their carved images. When God heard this, he was furious, and greatly abhorred Israel, so that he forsook the tabernacle of Shiloh, the tent he had placed among men, and delivered his strength into captivity, and his glory into the enemy's hand. He also gave his people over to the sword and was furious with his inheritance. The fire consumed their young men, and their maidens were not given in marriage. Their priests fell by the sword, and their widows made no lamentation. Then the Lord awoke as from sleep, like a mighty man who shouts because of wine. And he beat back his enemies. He put them to a perpetual reproach. Moreover, he rejected the tent of Joseph and did not choose the tribe of Ephraim, but chose the tribe of Judah, Mount Zion, which he loved. And he built his sanctuary like the heights, like the earth which he has established forever. He also chose David, his servant, and took him from the sheepfolds. From following the ewes that had young, he brought him to shepherd Jacob, his people, and Israel, his inheritance. So he shepherded them according to the integrity of his heart and guided them by the skillfulness of his hands.
And so that is the reading that we have in the book of Psalms today, Psalms 78. And now we are going to turn to the next book, Proverbs. We are going to look at chapters 7 through 10. And then we will be reading this article about the New England Primer. This would be the early reading book in the colonies during the time of the founding of the United States. So let's start now with Proverbs and chapter 7.
My son, keep my words, and treasure my commands within you. Keep my commands and live, and my law as the apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Say to wisdom, you are my sister. And call understanding your nearest kin, that they may keep you from the immoral woman, from the seductress who flatters with her words. For at the window of my house I looked through my lattice and saw among the simple, I perceived among the youths, a young man devoid of understanding, passing along the street near her corner, and he took the path to her house in the twilight, in the evening, in the black and dark night. And there a woman met him, with the attire of a harlot and a crafty heart. She was loud and rebellious. Her feet would not stay at home. At times she was outside, at times in the open square, lurking at every corner. So she caught him and kissed him. With an impudent face, she said to him,
I have peace offerings with me. Today I have paid my vows, so I came out to meet you, diligently to seek your face, and I have found you. I have spread my bed with tapestry, colored coverings of Egyptian linen. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of love until morning. Let us delight ourselves with love. For my husband is not at home. He has gone on a long journey. He has taken a bag of money with him and will come home on the appointed day.
With her enticing speech, she caused him to yield. With her flattering lips, she seduced him. Immediately he went after her as an ox goes to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks, till an arrow struck his liver. As a bird hastens to the snare, he did not know it would cost his life. Now, therefore, listen to me, my children. Pay attention to the words of my mouth. Do not let your heart turn aside to her ways. Do not stray into her paths, for she has cast down many wounded, and all who were slain by her were strong men. Her house is the way to hell, descending to the chambers of death.
Chapter number 8.
Does not wisdom cry out, and understanding lift up her voice? She takes her stand on the top of the high hill, beside the way where the paths meet. She cries out by the gates at the entry of the city, at the entrance of the doors.
To you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of men. O you simple ones, understand prudence. And you fools, be of an understanding heart. Listen, for I will speak of excellent things, and from the opening of my lips will come right things, for my mouth will speak truth. Wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are with righteousness. Nothing crooked or perverse is in them. They are all plain to him who understands, and right to those who find knowledge. Receive my instruction, and not silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things one may desire cannot be compared with her. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and find out knowledge and discretion. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil. Pride and arrogance and the evil way and the perverse mouth I hate. Counsel is mine, and sound wisdom. I am understanding. I have strength. By me kings reign, and rulers decree justice. By me princes rule, and nobles, all the judges of the earth. I love those who love me, and those who seek me diligently will find me. Riches and honor are with me, enduring riches and righteousness. My fruit is better than gold, yes, than fine gold, and my revenue than choice silver. I traverse the way of righteousness in the midst of the paths of justice, that I may cause those who love me to inherit wealth, that I may fill their treasuries. The Lord possessed me at the beginning of his way, before his works of old. I have been established from everlasting, from the beginning, before there was ever an earth. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no fountains abounding with water, before the mountains were settled, before the hills, I was brought forth. While as yet he had not made the earth or the fields, or the primal dust of the world. When he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he drew a circle on the face of the deep, when he established the clouds above, when he strengthened the fountains of the deep, when he assigned to the sea its limit, so that the waters would not transgress his command. When he marked out the foundations of the earth, then I was beside him as a master craftsman. And I was daily his delight, rejoicing always before him, rejoicing in his inhabited world. And my delight was with the sons of men. Now, therefore, listen to me, my children, for blessed are those who keep my ways. Hear instruction and be wise. and do not disdain it. Blessed is the man who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at the posts of my doors. For whoever finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord. But he who sins against me wrongs his own soul. All those who hate me love death.
And now we are at chapter number 9.
Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn out her 7 pillars. She has slaughtered her meat. She has mixed her wine. She has also furnished her table. She has sent out her maidens. She cries out from the highest places of the city.
Whoever is simple, let him turn in here.
As for him who lacks understanding, she says to him,
Come, eat of my bread and drink of the wine I have mixed. Forsake foolishness and live, and go in the way of understanding. He who corrects a scoffer gets shame for himself, and he who rebukes a wicked man only harms himself. Do not correct a scoffer, lest he hate you. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love you. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be still wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. For by me your days will be multiplied, and years of life will be added to you. If you are wise for yourself. And if you scoff, you will bear it alone.
A foolish woman is clamorous. She is simple and knows nothing, for she sits at the door of her house, on a seat by the highest places of the city, to call to those who pass by, who go straight on their way. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. And as for him who lacks understanding, she says to him,
Stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant.
But he does not know that the dead are there, that her guests are in the depths of hell.
And now the last
The
chapter
Proverbs
for
of
today,
Solomon.
10.
A wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is the grief of his mother. Treasures of wickedness profit nothing, but righteousness delivers from death. The Lord will not allow the righteous soul to famish, but he casts away the desire of the wicked. He who has a slack hand becomes poor, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. He who gathers in summer is a wise son. He who sleeps in harvest is a son who causes shame. Blessings are on the head of the righteous, but violence covers the mouth of the wicked. The memory of the righteous is blessed, but the name of the wicked will rot. The wise in heart will receive commands, but a prating fool will fall. He who walks with integrity walks securely, but he who perverts his ways will become known. He who winks with the eye causes trouble, but a prating fool will fall. The mouth of the righteous is a well of life, but violence covers the mouth of the wicked. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all sins. Wisdom is found on the lips of him who has understanding, but a rod is for the back of him who is devoid of understanding. Wise people store up knowledge, but the mouth of the foolish is near destruction. The rich man's wealth is his strong city. The destruction of the poor is their poverty. The labor of the righteous leads to life, the wages of the wicked to sin. He who keeps instruction is in the way of life, but he who refuses correction goes astray. Whoever hides hatred has lying lips, and whoever spreads slander is a fool. In the multitude of words, sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his lips is wise. The tongue of the righteous is choice silver. The heart of the wicked is worth little. The lips of the righteous feed many, but fools die for lack of wisdom. The blessing of the Lord makes one rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. To do evil is like sport to a fool, but a man of understanding has wisdom. The fear of the wicked will come upon him, and the desire of the righteous will be granted. When the whirlwind passes by, the wicked is no more, but the righteous has an everlasting foundation. As vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is the lazy man to those who send him. The fear of the Lord prolongs days, but the years of the wicked will be shortened. The hope of the righteous will be gladness, but the expectation of the wicked will perish. The way of the Lord is strength for the upright, but destruction will come to the workers of iniquity. The righteous will never be removed, but the wicked will not inhabit the earth. The mouth of the righteous brings forth wisdom, but the perverse tongue will be cut out. The lips of the righteous know what is acceptable, but the mouth of the wicked what is perverse.
And that is the end of the reading for today. So if you don't have time to listen to any more, we have done all of our reading today. The article for today is called "The Alphabet in America's First Textbook." And this is based on Proverbs chapter 10 and verse number 1, which we just heard, the beginning of this chapter 10. The Proverbs of Solomon. A wise son makes a father glad, but a foolish son is a grief to his mother. And this is a fairly short article. The New England Primer was the first textbook published in America. Although the Bible was the basic text for all schools and far predated the use of the primer in American education, English language Bibles were not published in early America, but rather were imported from Europe, along with other student textbooks. But in 1690, the primer was printed in Boston as America's first purely American textbook, and into the 1930s, it remained a primary textbook from which students learned to read. While there were no grade levels in early American education, the primer was where students began their reading lessons. So today, it would be called a first grade textbook. Over its more than 2 centuries of use, the cover page for the primer would change from edition to edition, but inside it maintained 3 core elements: the rhyming alphabet, the shorter catechism, and it says here, see the commentary accompanying Proverbs 1:7 for more about these 2 items. And I think that we have already read about that. And the alphabet of lessons for youth. And so there was the rhyming alphabet, shorter catechism, and the alphabet of lessons for youth. Many of the founding fathers were raised on this textbook and reprinted it to ensure that it was available for children in their generation, including Samuel Adams in Massachusetts, Benjamin Franklin in Pennsylvania, and Noah Webster in Connecticut. The primer introduced students to the alphabet and phonics, showing them how to assemble letters to make syllables, join syllables to make words, and then how to begin reading those words. They then learned the alphabet of lessons for youth, in which each letter was accompanied by a applicable Bible verse or Bible story. For well over 2 centuries, the following alphabet was a key part of public education in America. We're going to go through this alphabet. A wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is the heaviness of his mother, Proverbs 10:1. B, better is a little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith, Proverbs 15:16. C, come unto Christ, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and he will give you rest, Matthew 11:28. D, the deluge drowned the earth around, Genesis 6-9. E, Elijah hid by ravens fed, 1 Kings 17, verses 5 and 6. F, the judgment made Felix afraid, Acts 24:25. G, as runs the glass, our life doth pass, James 4:14. H, my book and heart must never part, Psalms 119:11. I, Job feels the rod, yet blessed God. Isn't that interesting? Job 1:21. Now we're going to get back to that because I said I, but it was for Job. We'll get back to that. K, proud Korah's troop was swallowed up, Numbers 16:1-46. L, Lot fled to Zor, saw fiery shower on Sodom pour, Genesis 19. M, Moses was he who Israel's host led through the sea, Exodus 14:21. N, Noah did view the old world and new, Genesis 6-8. O, young Obadiah, David, Josiah, all were pious. And it does not have a scripture reference. P, Peter denied his Lord and cried, John 18:27. Q, Queen Esther sues and saves the Jews, the book of Esther. R, Young pious Ruth left all for truth. The Book of Ruth. S. Young Samuel, dear the Lord did fear. That's funny. It's S-A-M''L, Samuel. Young Samuel dear, the Lord did fear. 1 Samuel 12:24. T. Young Timothy learnt sin to fly. 1 Timothy 6:11, 1 Timothy 6:11 and 2 Timothy 2:22. U. Vashti for pride was set aside. Esther 1:12-19. W. Whales in the sea, God's voice obey. Jonah 2 and verse number 10. X. Xerxes did die, and so must I. Hebrews 9:27. Y. While youth do cheer, death may be near. Proverbs 14 and verse 12. Z. Zacchaeus, he did climb the tree, our Lord to see. Luke 19 and verse number 4. Incidentally, you may have noticed that there was no letter J in this alphabet. And you remember I said I. It said, I, Jacob feels the rod, yet blesses God. And so here we are. You may have noticed that there was no J in this alphabet. This is because in the early 1600s and 1700s, when the letters I and J were written, both had large loops above and below the lettering line, so appearing almost identical, they therefore were often grouped together. While the New England Primer and its alphabet of lessons for youth was originally designed for the youngest of elementary pupils, its Bible lessons are worth being memorized by every American today, regardless of age. Amen. This is an article talking about early times in school during the founding of America, and the alphabet was learned by verses and stories found in the Bible. Amen. So the Bible and this Primer book was a very, very influential set of books in young children of the day when our founding fathers were putting together this country, America. God bless you. That is it for our reading for today, and we will see you tomorrow.